Alright, looks like I'm victorious. Victory! It's important to end every fight on full life if you can. Or not full life, full fury. Alright, so here we go. Now there are probably some things I could do to make this easier, like probably not steal grass, maybe change some runes or whatever. We're just gonna do this thing. Go straight in. See how it goes. Oh. One thing I should definitely do is wait for Breath of the Berserker to come off cooldown. Alright. It took me, I died about 10 times learning this fight and everything. I died about 10 times before I killed him at 60. So let's see what it's like at 62 here. Now you can see, am I doing any of these mechanics? No. Not doing a single one. Alright, that's the easiest one. First potion now used, and he is already almost half dead. Second potion. I'm gonna start drinking potions like a madman here in a second. I forgot to use the rupture. Wait, where's the succubus? The succubus is coming out now. I'm really tempted to just go for it and kill him off there, but I see I have enough potions I can bide my time and do this legit. Alright, this is the one shot. Get one shot, bitch. Done. Alright, there. These guys are legit. Alright, so let's see what happens. I blow my cooldowns, and yeah, they get utterly destroyed. There you go. Alright, that's a little bit more indicative of what I wanted to show. Okay, I'm gonna port out. Actually, I'm not gonna port out. I think I'm just gonna sit here next to my beautiful shrine. Let's do a quick TLDR. Here's the build. I'm going to explain everything here in detail in a moment. It is a Rend build with Rupture and Steel Grasp. Paragon board here. Here's the two glyphs. Haven't leveled up the glyphs really. And the gear, just kind of scroll down again. Alright, so here's your convenient TLDR. Alright, so most people know that Whirlwind, or at least they suspect Whirlwind is the best barb build at endgame. This is kind of a mid-game leveling build I came out with. Made a whole guide on it and everything back in the beta, but you know, it didn't get much attention at that time, to be fair. But here we have a build that I've now proven that works exceptionally well. I cleared the Fallen Temple level 70 dungeon to unlock World Tier 4 at level 60 solo on a barb. I haven't seen any evidence of anybody doing that on a barb that low level. Not saying it's not been done, but I don't see any video evidence of it after a good 5 to 10 minutes of searching specifically for it on the internet. That's a pretty good indication that it's at least a rare feat at that. So what this build is basically a DPS focused build with getting defenses a bit on gear, and focusing some of the legendary aspects for defense on gear and recovery here. This plays a huge role in being able to do dungeons. All of that in combat recovery, very rare stat to get. But it focuses on damage here with Rallying Cry, Wrath the Berserker, and then, you know, just all DPS stuff. And then a little bit of control with Steel Grasp. Steel Grasp plays actually a super important role in this build, and I think what makes mine a bit unique compared to any other bleed build guides out there. I didn't see this skill being used on the build guides. Of course, I was looking at build guides myself, and I definitely took a lot of inspiration when it came to the Paragon boards for the build guides. However, when it came to the skills I wanted to use, I basically just used, I took all of my expertise from Diablo 3, as the Barbarian is very similar to Diablo 3, and then kind of looked at what some of these enhanced and upgraded versions of the skills gave. And a quick question in the chat, did you use Unbridled Rage early on? No, I did not use Unbridled Rage, and I'll explain why in a little bit here. So Steel Grasp obviously is great for quality of life for control, but I really only use this, primarily I use this in the beginning for to put vulnerable on the enemies. So this build, as well as many builds in the game, gets huge synergies from vulnerable damage, and you need to find a way to get vulnerable into the build if you can, and Steel Grasp was my ticket to victory. Now, I do have kind of a chance to proc it over here or whatever, but that's not reliable at all. This is 100% reliable, totally deterministic, so long as you can aim. It does require you to aim a little bit. It doesn't necessarily work as pulling the enemies in, but as long as you aim well, it will always hit the enemies. And then over here, it also comes with a super strong upgraded version. Gains Berserking for 2 seconds. Berserking, again, diving into the DPS version of the build, really wanting to get all of that extra damage and stuff. And whenever I line things up well with cooldowns, it's just terrific. So it also comes with Rupture, which is kind of definitely more optional ability. Now I'm using a unique weapon that synergizes a lot with Rupture, so it makes it actually more applicable to use it or choose it as a skill. But as far as using it without that unique weapon, I was still using it, to be honest, but it's not really playing a major role, and it's definitely a flex slot. But I really like it for the it's basically Steel Grasp into 1 Rend to, extend the duration of vulnerable right there, and then go into basically Rupture and Rallying Cry at the same time. It kind of trips the GCD on that. And then also Wrath of Berserker if I have it, and then immediately just start Rend spamming. And it's really good because Rupture gives me an extra bit of attack speed, which is kind of big. And then, of course, I get all kinds of bonuses from Rallying Cry and Wrath of the Berserker. And I also have the one specific legendary aspect that's very strong for this build. You have up to 50% chance to gain 20 Fury when Rend deals damage to at least 1 bleeding enemy. And you can potentially, with all the increased Fury recovery through Rallying Cry and stats, you can basically just spam Rend the whole time. If you get lucky. If you keep getting lucky, you can literally spam it like 20 times in a row. If you know how much damage that is, it just keeps piling on over and over and over and over. It's not like a lot of games where bleed, like in Path of Exile, you can only have, I think, like, I don't know, maybe you can only have 1 bleed on the target. It's like poison in Path of Exile. You can just keep putting on stacking it up over and over and over. Each specific iteration of it counts in full. Alright, so we do Lunging Strike. This was another thing that I took some major inspiration from the guide. Now, I thought in my head, Flay was going to be the best thing for Rend. You would think it would be, right? I was using Flay, Enhanced Flay, and then Battle Flay over here. Well, I guess, I don't know if this is multiplicative or additive, actually, on that end. It might be multiplicative because it's a skill. But anyway, nothing makes the game easier than closing the gap automatically. No internal cooldown Lunging Strike. I don't really understand why it's as strong as it is. It makes these other skills seem completely so weak. It was just laughable compared to this. But, one of the Barb's main weaknesses is closing the gap. So you have a lot of things like succubuses and the vampiric monsters that keep flying away and stuff. This just makes that easy. It's just so easy. I don't get it. I don't get why it's as strong as it is. So anyway, use this. Don't use Flay. And then even the enhanced and upgraded versions are pretty good too. It's actually pretty good. If you have decent weapons, you can do that. Let's see. Heals me for a little bit of life. Not bad. Inflicts damage. Now, if I had a ton of crit, I might go Combat Lunging Strike, but I feel like there's a lot of synergies involved in bleeds anyway, especially with, what is it down here? Gushing Wounds. So, I mean, again, Gushing Wounds depends on you having crit too, but I feel like Battle Lunging Strike is probably better over there. So, I'm going to be going over everything in kind of big detail here. That's why this video is going to be extra long. It's the way I do things. Kind of give you my thoughts about why I picked what I picked. But yeah, let's just kind of start through here. And we're just going to go along here. I do put all the points I can into Rend. I put 1 point in a pressure point because it qualifies it for a lucky hit. Might as well do it 1. And then Enhanced Rend for the extended duration of vulnerable. Super, super important. And Rend deals increased damage or get extra fury. This is definitely the more single target version, and I prefer to just kind of continue to go into all of that. single target focused. Over here into defensive skills, we're taking Rallying Cry, only 1 point. I have an item that gives me +2. I think my chest gives me +2, but only 1 point's necessary. And then Unstoppable is what's really good there. And then the extra Fury Generation, again, with that legendary aspect from the ring I showed a moment ago. This applies to that as one of the reasons why you can just spam Rend, potentially. Okay, no extra points anywhere else. Then we have Brawling Skills, Swiftness, at least up to 125% movement speed. That's where the cap is. I think I'm only at like 120% right now, actually. A little unfortunate. Aggressive Stance, again, kind of digging into Berserking. I did have 3 points in here earlier, but I decided to put them elsewhere. While Berserking Fury Generations increased. Yeah, there you go. Again, while Berserking Wrath of the Berserker is up. Again, more potential to spam Rend, and not only spam Rend, but actually make your Fury go well above the cap, which procs, you know, things like this. Each point of Fury you generate while at max Fury grants your core ability 60% multiplicative damage increase. That applies even to Rend spam. That is giving me bonus Rend or bonus Fury beyond the globe Fury globe filling up. Okay, and let's see, where else are we at here? Moving on down, Weapon Mastery. So again, most Rend builds I don't think have any skill in here. I'm pretty sure. I don't know, maybe they use Death Blow or something, I'm not sure. But Hamstring once, you see every bar build do this. This guarantees you have a crowd control ability on your build that is going to proc the damage increase from any sort of, let's see if I can find a single iteration of this. Increased damage against crowd-controlled enemies. There we go. Damage to crowd-controlled enemies increased on that ring. Usually I have more than just one iteration of that, but anyway, that is granting me or unlocking that there. Cut to the Bone, deal 18% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Vulnerable is its own separate multiplier, so this is really strong. It's additive with other iterations of vulnerable increased damage, I suspect. But still, I have 9 ranks of Rupture. That is because of, first of all, it's because of this helmet and this weapon. Gives me 8 ranks, and then of course I put 1 rank in there as well. I keep doing that. I keep thinking P is going to open up the... No, I don't want to go to the shop. Alright, so Rupture... Extra ranks don't really do that much, actually. It just reduces the cooldown of it. It's not that big of a deal. Enhanced Rupture, explosion that deals bleeding damage. You know, it's good. Again, it's another chance to get the extra value out of Gushing Wounds. And this is one I really like. I think most people are sleeping on this one, Warrior's Rupture. 20% increased attack speed, kind of a big deal. It helps to make up for the long cast time of Rupture itself. And over here... yeah, I mean, this could be good. Actually, this could be decent if you're having survivability issues and maybe... You know, this is actually an interesting upgraded version, like single target. If I think single target, like against Elias in the level 70 dungeon, this might have actually been kind of useful. Maybe. I'm not sure. Now, I'm taking a lot of small passives here. Pit Fighter. See, there's some of the strongest ones you'll see on most build guides. Increased crit chance, increased close damage, and also some damage reduction in there. The Fortify synergies. Gotta have Fortify somewhere. I think really they need it in one place. Probably gonna come on your chest or your pants. Here, the text on here is a little misleading because of the upgrade. I think it's bugged, but this is actually a high roll, a highly rolled point of Fury generated while at max Fury. Even when I had one that was lower rolled, it was still enough. It was fine. So I am typically fortified, almost at all times. And that's my only source of Fortify. Of course, I get extra. Okay, oh, sorry, this is also my second. Okay, I have 2 sources of Fortify. This one's my second source, I guess. Yeah, so Fortify damage reduction by 10%, and there's other bonuses you can get, like Defensive Stance. Moving on down. Heavy-handed. Again, basically, I think almost all builds are going to put 3 points in No Mercy and 3 points in Heavy-handed. These are the crit bonuses, basically. Wrath of the Berserker. All of that good juju there. 1 point in Max Fury, and I like this one actually. Furious Impulse. Each time you swap weapons, gain 6 Fury. I actually get a lot of value out of this. A lot of value out of this. And then also Gushing Wounds. Before my build had any crit at all, I was using Unconstrained. Not bad. And then I could, you know, dip further into Berserk build. Like maybe I put actually 2 points in here, for example, or 3 points. Not Unbridled Rage. Unbridled Rage is terrible. It completely removes the value of this legendary affix, basically. It makes it cost too much. So it's not good. Now, I mentioned a second ago. Where was it at again? Yeah. Weapon swap. Alright, so by default, my 2 attacks, Lunging Strike and Rend, will use my 2-handed weapon. But if I press S and I scroll down here, I can use the middle mouse button to cycle the weapon. I could force use other weapons. You see the auto selects chooses the 2-handed weapon. But in this case, Fury generated is 9 no matter what weapon I use. The faster weapons are going to be better here because I'm going to generate more Fury that way already. So I'm already inclined to do that regardless. And then on top of that, getting extra synergies from, there it is again, from this passive one last time. Look at it here. It is, yeah. 6 Fury. And this also synergizes with like a upgraded Tactical Rallying Cry, and this one right here, Fury Generation Increase. So it's a lot more than 6. It's actually like 10 or 15 depending on what kind of crazy synergies you have. Let's go ahead and look at the Paragon board next. Now here, basically, I just followed the guide. Just followed the guide through and through. I was actually following a Whirlwind guide, kind of building this up like I'm going to play Whirlwind. It just so happened that it's Whirlwind and Rend kind of go hand in hand a lot, and Whirlwind still relies on some bleeding synergies anyway. With the 2-handed... oh yeah, I guess I should point that out. I can't remember what button to press on here. Okay, Control Shift C, I guess it was. Techniques, 2-handed sword expertise. So regardless of what's going on, I always inflict a bleed, basically, whether I'm using... And this was... I did have a pull arm on here. I think that made it even better when you're not actually using a sword. Oh. Anyway, yeah, back to the Paragon board. I think this glyph is like super best in slot. When an enemy damages you, is damaged by you the first time, they become vulnerable for 3 seconds. This kind of removes the value of Steel Grasp a little bit, except mid-combat, of course. But this is still very good. Out in the open world, Lunging Strike, it's vulnerable, then I can Rend, and wow, it just takes so much damage right there. In my case, I used this one here for bleeds. I felt like it was probably the best. Again, diving hard into Berserking there. Alright, eventually I'll be taking Blood Rage, and I'll be exiting over here. And I haven't even looked at the 3rd board yet, so I still got to look into that. But, it's like next point here, or... one of these 2. I think Dex, actually. And Blood Rage. That's going to be nice in 2 Paragon levels. That's going to be really nice. But I don't have it yet. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the Paragon level. You just have to try and unlock the secondary effects exploit here. And Ire, I guess, in my case. There. So I did choose Ire on my own. I looked at all the options there. According to the gear, I already talked a little bit about this, but defensive options on the helm, chest, and pants. I didn't focus on defenses much on the passive tree. Not a lot anyway, but the barb has a lot of defenses. I like getting the increased armor. Even max life rolls are okay. On the helmet, you really want cooldown reduction because you can get it easily there. And then everything else is... This chest is actually not optimal for my build. It's probably the worst item I have for my build. This is a preemptive chest for Whirlwind with 2 shouts that are going to be used heavily there. I would normally focus on reduced damage taken from close enemies, distant enemies, increased armor, maybe vitality maximum life rather. Didn't they call it vitality in the other games? Strange. +2 Rend. Rend is doing a lot of extra damage. It's still multiplier when it can increase ranks to it. Attack speed is good. Crit chance is good. You actually need kind of high attack speed to pull off the rotation of Steel Grasp into one Rend, into Rupture, Valiant Cry, and then into more Rends. And because the vulnerable can drop off if you don't have enough attack speed, which getting the upgraded version of Rupture is useful for that as well. And then having Wrath the Berserker makes it easier. On top of that, these are the 4 best stats for boots, and probably the best imprint, I guess. In my opinion, you should put this on a 2-handed bludgeoning weapon. It is especially good for this slot. I do not need to use this weapon, so I can... This is basically the longest piece of gear that I can ever have. I'll never basically ever have to replace it if I don't want to. I will, of course, want to eventually. But each point of Fury you generate while at maximum Fury grants your next core 4% increased damage up to 60% of its own multiplier. That's insane. Probably the strongest damage one we can get, because the 60% is in fact doubled. Whereas, for example, in the ring here, attacking enemies with a basic skill increases damage of your next core skill. If I put this on a 2-hander, that does not go up to 60%. It stays at 30. It's 20% up to 30% because of gold text or whatever. So yeah, this is the one to have there. And you know, the other one would maybe be probably this one. Skills deal up to 20%. So if I had a 2-handed slashing weapon, non-unique, I'll probably put this one on there. Up to 40% increased damage based on the available primary resource when you cast. So you can see that for this build, we want to stay on full Fury as much as we can. The Whirlwind build looks into this too, and I think most Barb builds are going to be going for these kind of damage synergies of trying to stay at maximum Fury, overcapped Fury, basically, is what you're going for here. And you may need a basic skill to do that, you know. Maybe not. Obviously, I can get lucky with the Rend thing going on here. But it's really important to have that on there. So I have a unique weapon, so I put it on the regular weapon. Here, deal 5%, 5 to 10% extra damage with each second while you stand still. I feel like this doesn't work very much. Apparently, when you cast Rend, it resets your movement or something. I really don't think this is that good. I think there's probably might look into something else. I sometimes get like the minimal effect of this though, and especially with lunging strike, it's not that good. We already talked about that one. This one's kind of self-explanatory. Up to 30% multiplier. I don't really do like monk 3-hit combo business with this skill, but you know, usually use 1, maybe 2 lunging strikes. Depends on how much Fury I have, because I always want to see my Fury globe full, basically. So if it's full, I'm probably going to cast Rend regardless. Yeah, okay. So again, I think the most undervalued or underspoken legendary aspect is this one. For the Barb especially, you have to use a lot of potions. I suddenly stopped having to use potions. So if you're playing a Barb in the mid-game and you're tired of running out of potions, get this legendary aspect, put it on your amulet especially, and you're going to stop using potions, basically, when you're in large combat, unless you're really squishy for some reason. As long as you don't severely undergear the content, like me being level 62 going into World Tier 4, I'm going to undergear the content. But in World Tier 3, maybe I can just... Let's just see what... I'm going to show you. I'm going to actually show you in real time what this looks like. How this actually plays. So let's go find some enemies here. It's a bit of impromptu. Alright, watch my damage. Okay, or watch my health here. Okay, oh no, I'm taking damage. I'm going to have to use a potion. Oh no. And, well, actually, they're not really doing that much damage to me. Okay, well, you can see eventually I would be bleeding out, right? But if I put this amulet on... I'm actually gaining health through this process. And becoming fortified. Hello? What kind of Barb doesn't want this scenario? Every Barb would want this. Every Barb wants to see this when they're playing. That's coming from this amulet. So I can probably just talk the rest of this time right now, right here, and it wouldn't even matter. I'd just sit here and nothing would happen. Now, these are non-elites, of course, but again, and I overgear the content at this point for the most part. But if, you know, even in the end game, I don't know. So I feel like this is probably not going to be that good in the very end game, because 182 life per second is not going to be that meaningful at level 90, probably. But this is a super, super strong choice early game. Early game. So again, get your hands on this legendary aspect. There. Eventually I'll get tired of this and I'll kill them. Sapphire socketed in the armors. Again, if you're using gushing wounds, you're going to do emeralds in here, I think. It's good, still good for bosses. I went massive damage reduction on the amulet. I got very lucky with the amulet. You really want fury cost reduction, cooldown reduction, damage reduction is fine. I'm kind of replacing the lack of damage reduction on my chest with the amulet. You could think of it that way. Skulls socketed in here, of course. So a lot of armor, a lot of attack power, and quite a bit of life. Life is only rolled on the chest and the helmet, actually. But pretty high rolls on those. And again, this weapon is making it so a pool of blood drops, and yeah, you can see it doesn't do that crazy damage. Whatever. But. So the rotation is that, and now everything has been cast, and you know, because they're not elites, they're already dead. But anyway, that's how you do it. Probably this up. Yeah, of course this opens. Look at that damage. So good. Everything is vulnerable because of the glyph. One lunging strike, one rend, it's a dead man walking if you outgear the content. Again. And this doesn't even excel in dungeons. It excels on bosses, actually, as you could see in the intro. So this is basically going to conclude the build guide. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. I am not writing all this out. I want to play the game. So, I didn't have a chance to play the beta in large form end games. I couldn't do a massive write-up of anything. Follow the guide, the max roll. I mean, I follow those anyway, but this is my particular take on it. This is capable of, again, killing Elias, the level 70 Elias in the Fallen Temple to unlock World Tier 4 at level 60 with this gear. And no elixir. I actually forgot to use an elixir. I used an elixir the second time around to showcase it, but forgot to even use an elixir. How silly. But anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.